JikookVerse family, welcome back to JikookVerse. Jimin's love language for Jungkook was loud and clear at Soldier Field, and Chicago was not ready for the amount of tenderness packed into one soundcheck. From the very first moment the two appeared together, there was a kind of energy that felt impossible to ignore. It was not just about the music, the stage, or the excitement surrounding the concert. It was about the little things happening between the two of them, the glances, the timing, the quiet gestures, and those moments when Jimin seemed to know exactly where Jungkook was without even having to look for him. On Soundcheck Day 1 in Chicago, the atmosphere around Soldier Field was already intense. Fans were arriving with one thing on their minds: seeing their favorite artists up close and experiencing the concert atmosphere before the main show even began. But as the soundcheck unfolded, attention quickly shifted toward the dynamic between Jimin and Jungkook. Jimin has always had a way of expressing affection through details. Sometimes it comes through words. Sometimes it comes through teasing. Sometimes it comes through an effortless smile at exactly the right moment. And in Chicago, those details seemed to stack up one after another. The first thing that stood out was Jimin's awareness of Jungkook. While moving around the stage, Jimin appeared completely comfortable, but there were several moments when his attention naturally drifted toward Jungkook. It was the kind of interaction that made fans immediately pay attention because there was no dramatic announcement, no big speech, and no obvious attempt to make a moment happen. Everything felt casual. And yet, somehow, those casual moments became the moments everyone remembered. Jungkook, meanwhile, brought his own energy to the soundcheck. Confident, playful, and focused, he looked completely at home on that stage. But whenever Jimin moved closer, the atmosphere between them seemed to soften. That contrast is exactly what made the Chicago soundcheck so interesting. There were moments of high energy, moments of joking around, and moments when the two simply stood near each other as though being in the same space was enough. For fans watching from the floor, those interactions could feel larger than the concert itself. And then came the moments that had JikookVerse family replaying everything in their heads. One of the biggest themes of the day was Jimin's habit of checking in on Jungkook. It was subtle, but consistent. Whether it was noticing where he was standing, reacting to something Jungkook did, or simply turning in his direction at the perfect moment, Jimin seemed to have this natural radar for him. That kind of attention can say a lot without a single word. When someone repeatedly notices one particular person in a crowded environment, fans are going to notice too. And in Chicago, Jimin's attention toward Jungkook felt especially visible. There was also a playful side to their interaction. Jimin has always been able to bring out a lighter, more mischievous side of the people around him, and Jungkook seemed more than willing to play along. The smiles came quickly. The reactions came even faster. And whenever Jungkook did something unexpected, Jimin's response often seemed immediate. For Jikook fans, this is the kind of chemistry that can turn an ordinary soundcheck into an unforgettable moment. Because sometimes the most memorable interactions are not the ones that look dramatic from the outside. Sometimes it is a tiny reaction, a glance, a smile that appears and disappears in a second, a slight movement closer, a shared laugh, a moment when one person reacts before anyone else does. That was the feeling surrounding Jimin and Jungkook in Chicago. And there was another detail that made the atmosphere even sweeter. Jimin seemed to be paying attention to Jungkook's comfort. There is something very distinctive about affectionate behavior that does not ask for attention in return. It simply happens. Jimin's gestures often carried that feeling. Rather than turning every interaction into a spectacle, he seemed to communicate through presence, staying nearby, noticing, reacting, making room, sharing the moment. For fans, that can feel incredibly meaningful. The phrase love language gets used a lot when people talk about relationships, friendships, and close bonds. But what makes Jimin's dynamic with Jungkook so interesting to fans is the way affection can appear through actions instead of declarations. Jimin does not need a dramatic speech to make an interaction feel personal. Sometimes the message is already there in the way he looks at Jungkook, and Chicago offered plenty of those moments. The soundcheck environment also created a different kind of intimacy than the main concert. There was more room for spontaneous interaction, more opportunities for the members to move freely, and more chances for fans to catch the small moments that might disappear during a tightly choreographed performance. That made every reaction feel amplified. Jungkook could be doing one thing, Jimin could be doing another, and then suddenly they would end up in the same space with that familiar playful energy. It is the kind of thing that makes fans wonder how many tiny moments happen when the cameras are not focused on them. Because during a large performance, the attention is usually divided across the stage. But during Soundcheck, fans are watching everything. And when Jikook gives fans something to notice, they notice it. One particularly memorable aspect of the day was how naturally Jimin seemed to match Jungkook's energy. When Jungkook was playful, Jimin responded. When Jungkook became more focused, Jimin seemed to settle into that mood as well. When the energy rose, both appeared comfortable in the chaos. That kind of synchronization is one of the reasons fans have spent so much time talking about their dynamic over the years. It is not always about doing the exact same thing. Sometimes synchronization is emotional. One person smiles and the other smiles. One person gets excited and the other reacts. One person steps forward and the other notices. And that was happening again in Chicago. Jimin also appeared to have a talent for turning simple moments into something memorable. A brief interaction can become a fan favorite simply because of the timing. Maybe Jungkook says something and Jimin immediately reacts. Maybe Jimin looks over at the exact moment Jungkook is doing something funny. Maybe the two end up next to each other without making any effort to create the moment. Those moments can feel almost accidental, but for fans, they become the highlights of the day. And that is why the title of this story feels so appropriate. Jimin's love language was loud and clear. Not because there was one giant declaration, but because there were so many little signs of attention that together created a very clear emotional picture. The warmth was in the details. The comfort was in the familiarity. The affection was in the way they moved around each other. And the playfulness was everywhere. Jungkook also seemed completely comfortable responding to Jimin's energy. There was no hesitation in the way they interacted, no sense that either one had to carefully plan the moment. Instead, it felt spontaneous. That spontaneity is part of what makes Jikook content so enjoyable for fans. When something feels natural, even the smallest interaction can become unforgettable. Another thing fans may have noticed during the Chicago Soundcheck was Jimin's tendency to react to Jungkook even when Jungkook was not directly interacting with him. That is one of those details that can be easy to miss if you are only watching the main performance. But when fans are paying close attention, those reactions stand out. Jimin might be listening, he might be watching, he might be smiling at something happening nearby. And suddenly, fans realize his attention is already on Jungkook. It is the kind of moment that makes people smile because it feels so effortless. And there is something else about Jimin's personality that fits perfectly here. He often communicates through warmth. He can be affectionate without making the moment heavy. He can tease without making things uncomfortable. He can create closeness through humor. And with Jungkook, that combination seems especially effective. Jungkook has a naturally energetic presence, but he can also become incredibly playful when he is comfortable. Put those two personalities together, and you get a dynamic that can move between teasing and tenderness within seconds. Chicago seemed to capture that balance beautifully. 1 minute, everything could feel like pure concert energy. The next minute, there could be a small exchange between Jimin and Jungkook that completely changed the mood, and fans picked up on it immediately. This is also why Soundcheck can be such a special environment. The performers are not simply delivering a finished show. They are warming up, interacting, laughing, adjusting to the space, and letting their personalities come through. There are fewer barriers. And because of that, the relationship dynamics among the members can become much more visible. For Jikook fans, that means every little interaction can feel like a gift. And on this particular Chicago day, Jimin appeared to be giving plenty. There was attention, there was laughter, there was proximity. There was that familiar sense that Jimin knew exactly how to get Jungkook to react. And perhaps the biggest takeaway from the day was not one specific moment, but the overall atmosphere. Jimin and Jungkook looked comfortable around each other. They looked familiar. They looked like two people who already understood each other's rhythms. And sometimes that is more powerful than any dramatic scene. Because familiarity creates a very specific kind of chemistry. You see it when one person anticipates what the other is going to do. You see it when a joke lands before the punchline is even finished. You see it when a glance communicates more than a paragraph ever could. That was the mood fans were picking up on throughout the day. And then there was the emotional side of it. For many fans, watching Jimin and Jungkook together is not just about collecting moments. It is about appreciating the comfort, loyalty, humor, and closeness they have built over time. Each new interaction becomes another piece of that long-running story. Chicago added another chapter, and this chapter was filled with the kind of little gestures that fans know how to recognize instantly. Jimin did not need to make a grand performance out of his affection. His attention was already speaking. His reactions were already speaking. His smile was already speaking. His decision to stay close was already speaking. And when you put all of those things together, the message becomes impossible to miss. Jungkook clearly had Jimin's attention, and Jimin seemed perfectly happy to let everyone see it. There is also something charming about the way Jungkook reacts when Jimin gives him that attention. Rather than stepping away from it, he often seems to play into it. That back and forth creates a rhythm that fans instantly recognize. Jimin gives a little. Jungkook responds. Jimin reacts. Jungkook smiles. And suddenly, an ordinary interaction becomes a full Jikook event. That is what happened again in Chicago. Nothing had to be exaggerated. The chemistry was already there. And that may be the most important part of the entire story. The memorable moments did not come from trying too hard. They came from the natural reactions, the unplanned smiles, the quiet attention, the playful exchanges, the simple fact that both seemed comfortable sharing the same space. For JikookVerse family, those are the moments worth remembering. Because when you watch enough interactions between two people, patterns start to become familiar. You begin to recognize the ways they communicate. You recognize the teasing. You recognize the comfort. You recognize the little looks. And you recognize the moments when one seems especially tuned into the other. Jimin and Jungkook gave fans plenty of that in Chicago. And honestly, the setting made it even more memorable. Soldier Field is already a place associated with huge performances and unforgettable nights. But before the main show even began, the Soundcheck had already created its own collection of moments. For fans there in person, those moments were happening only a few feet away. For everyone watching from home, clips and memories would soon travel across timelines, group chats, and fan communities. And with every replay, another tiny detail would probably be noticed. That is often how Jikook moments work. The first time you watch, you notice the big interaction. The second time, you notice the smile. The third time, you notice who looked at whom first. And the fourth time, somehow there is another detail hiding in the background. Chicago gave fans exactly that kind of content. And the most consistent thread running through it all was Jimin's attention toward Jungkook. Loud, clear, and impossible for fans to ignore. Maybe that is why the phrase love language fits so well, because affection does not always arrive in obvious words. Sometimes it arrives as a quick check. A shared laugh, a hand gesture, a step closer, a smile that appears instantly, a reaction that happens before the person even seems to think about it. Those tiny details can carry a surprising amount of emotion, and Jimin seemed to be speaking that language fluently around Jungkook. As the soundcheck continued, the mood remained energetic, but those softer moments kept appearing. And every time they did, the crowd seemed ready. Fans knew what they were seeing. They knew what to watch for. And they knew that one small interaction could become the moment everyone would be talking about later. That is the power of a familiar dynamic. You do not need a huge event to create excitement. Sometimes all it takes is two people standing beside each other and being completely themselves. And that is exactly what made this Chicago soundcheck so enjoyable. Jimin brought warmth, Jungkook brought energy, and somewhere in between, they created that familiar balance that keeps fans watching. There was no need for dramatic declarations. The details were enough. The glances were enough. The smiles were enough. The reactions were enough. And for JikookVerse family, that is what made day one at Soldier Field so memorable. Jimin's affection came through in the way he noticed Jungkook, in the way he responded to him, in the way he stayed connected to the moment whenever Jungkook was nearby, and in the way his expressions seemed to change almost instantly whenever Jungkook entered the picture. That is not a language everyone speaks fluently, but Jimin seemed to make it look effortless, and Jungkook seemed to understand it perfectly. So as the Chicago Soundcheck day comes to an end, one thing is certain in the hearts of Jikook fans: the tiny moments were the big moments. The smiles mattered, the glances mattered, the teasing mattered, the comfort mattered. And all of those details together created an atmosphere that fans will probably be replaying long after the music stops. This was more than just a sound check full of songs and stage preparation. For JikookVerse family, it became another collection of those unforgettable interactions that somehow make a few seconds feel like a full story. And perhaps that is the sweetest part. Jimin did not have to say much. Jungkook did not have to say much. Their energy did the talking. Their reactions did the talking. And in Chicago, that language was loud enough for every Jikook fan to hear. JikookVerse family, keep that Chicago Soundcheck energy close, because when two people have this much natural chemistry, every little moment has the potential to become the moment everyone remembers. This is JikookVerse, and Chicago Day 1 definitely gave us a lot to talk about.